Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Sulia podcast. My name is Safo Kwame Ohinebe, and on today's episode of the podcast, the African Cup of Nations is starting on the 21st of December. And this is like my second favorite football tournament, but the World Cup. The African Cup of Nations, the last African Cup of Nations was spectacular in Cote d'Ivoire. This one is going to be in Morocco. I don't know if they can ever top Cote d'Ivoire's African Cup of Nations, the Coupe de Mato, a lot of things went on. It was so fantastic, and a big shout outs to the CAF president, Patrick Motsepe. I think they are doing a fantastic job. So what I'm going to do today and in the coming weeks is I'm going to touch on a couple of teams and what to expect. But today we are going to go through the groups and which group you should look out for and which group would be fascinating, and we might make prediction as to who we think might win the African Cup of Nations. But then that's the thing about African Cup of Nations, you can never predict who is going to win. So welcome to another episode of the Sulia podcast. So in Group A of the African Cup of Nations, you have Morocco, Mali, Zambia, Comoros. I think this is going to be a very spicy group because, damn, there are some heavy hitters there. You have Comoros, who in the 2021 African Cup of Nations really announced themselves to the world that they are not just any island. They are a country who has taken African football serious. They eliminated Ghana. They beat Ghana, actually. They eliminated Ghana in Cote d'Ivoire. And also, we saw in the recent World Cup qualifiers, they were thorn in the flesh of Ghana throughout that qualifiers. They were the only team that managed to have a victory over Ghana in the World Cup qualifiers and narrowly missed out qualifying for the World Cup. But they are a very good team. And you have Zambia. Who can forget that 2012 Chipolo Polo of Zambians? I mean, headed by Patson Daka. Currently, they are not really on the top form as people would expect them to be, but then you cannot deny the pedigree and what they come with. They used to have Avram Grant. I don't know if they are still with Avram Grant or they've parted with Avram Grant, but that's a country who also takes their football seriously. And then you have Mali. Mali are like they are like the Atletico Madrids of African football. But Mali is still a good team. They've always had a good team. They are the team that's doing everything right, but they just can't clinch the African Cup of Nations. Again, we saw them choke in the World Cup qualifiers in the group with Ghana when they were the first seeded team. At Cote d'Ivoire in the just recent AFCON 2, people had so much expectation. In fact, they took the lead against La Cote d'Ivoire. People expected them to be Cote d'Ivoire, and then they choked in the extra time. And again, that's what about the miracles of Cote d'Ivoire winning that AFCON. Mali was a huge disappointment in that AFCON. When you juxtapose it to the pedigree they have, formerly coached by Eric Shaw, they have a current coach who has been twerking for Ghana in Thompson Fit. But that aside, Thompson Fit is a very attacking-minded coach, and so they are like a very good team that everybody would have to pay attention to. So you have that with Mali. And then you have Morocco. Oh, mamma mia. I think this African Cup, again, they are my favorite going into the African Cup because they are having this Ghana renaissance in post-2010 when Ghana went to the World Cup to impress. Just that they did better than Ghana. So, and they have the equipment, they have the players. They are the topmost team in Africa right now. And then they are hosting. I was listening to the South African journalist, I've forgotten his name, Andile made this statement that the only reason why Cote d'Ivoire was able to win the last AFCON was because they were hosting at home. And I think Morocco is going to take encouragement. They are going to take inspiration from that because they are also at home. And they would have to, every game is essentially a home game for them. So that's what makes them the favorite. So in this group, you definitely predict a Mali-Morocco qualifying from this group simply. And then you have Group B. In Group B, you have Egypt. They are like the African Real Madrid. You have South Africa. You have Angola and you have Zimbabwe. And this group might look pretty straightforward, but it's not really that straightforward. In Zimbabwe, you have Kamabeliad. You have a couple of their players who play in the South African League as well. So it's going to be a very tricky group for South Africa. South Africa is also experiencing this renaissance in their football. The rise of Mamelodi Sundowns, the Orlando Pirates, and the fact that they are so good with their South African league coupled with the players they are able to churn out for the national team. You have Thibaut Mokoena, they have Lyle Foster, Percy Tau is still there doing their thing. You have Rowan Williams as their goalkeeper. South African football right now is on cloud nine right now. They've qualified for their first World Cup after hosting it in 2010. So South Africa is a big shot right now in that group. And then when it comes to Egypt's kryptonite when it comes to the African Cup has always been South Africa. Because in 2019, South Africa eliminated Egypt in Egypt. So I don't think South Africa will be scared of Egypt. But then the Pharaohs of Egypt, yes, they are 6 times African champions. 6 times African champions, and nobody has won it as much as, I think they are 7 times. I'll check that. But no one has won it as much as Egypt has won it. And so Egypt, South Africa will be dicey. But then Angola is this kind of country who served us so much entertainment in the last ended AFCON. They were so good in the last ended AFCON, and they've gotten this massive dip of form in the World Cup qualifiers. They were so disappointing in the World Cup qualifiers. And Angola got there because Angola beat Ghana to get there. They were so the earlier part of 2024, Angola was very good then they just faded away in 2025. They just faded away with their performances in their World Cup qualifiers. But I don't know, they should hope not to bring that same form into the AFCON. But if they do bring that same form into the AFCON, I don't think they qualify. I think Egypt and South Africa would make it ahead of them, unless they can channel their inner performances they gave last year at the last ended. I will not be shocked that this will be one of the groups where you would have one of the best third place teams qualifying out of. And then you have Group C, which you have Niger, 3 times African champions. You have Tunisia, 2004 African champions. You have Uganda, which is everybody who knows me knows that Uganda is my second country. And you have Tanzania. This group, you see, I would want to take it with Tanzania. I think Tanzania is, unfortunately, Tanzania is going to be the whipping boys of this group. I mean, they're a good team, but I think this group is too tough for them to make it out of. Thing about Uganda is, my queens of Uganda, over the past years, I'm seeing a renaissance in East African football, and Uganda, Tanzania, I think Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania are going to be the next host of the next AFCON, which hopefully I should be there in that AFCON. But Uganda are this team who are having a bit of renaissance, especially when they hosted the just ended African Cup for local teams. They were very good, and I was impressed with their performances. But then they are rubbing shoulders with Tunisia. Tunisia is this dark art African team. I don't know how to explain it. This dark art African team who you just never know what they do, but they always find a way through. Again, Tunisia knocked out Ghana in 2019 AFCON on penalties. They were third in that 2019 AFCON, and they always make sure that they are out of the group stages. It's not rocket science that Nigeria are the favorite in this group. I mean, we are clowning Nigeria for having a very terrible World Cup qualified, but it's not rocket science that Nigeria, when it comes to the AFCON, has this pedigree most countries do not have, and I won't be shocked if they qualify easily from this group, especially considering that Eric Schell is still figuring out this team, and you have Ademola Lookman, who is now hitting his form in the Italian Serie A. So Nigeria are definitely the clear favorites in this group, and I think this is also another group you have a best third place team qualifying. I'm not be shocked if Uganda qualifies as the third best place team together with Nigeria and Tunisia, and that takes us to Group D. That brings us to Group D. In Group D, you have Senegal, DR Congo, Benin, and Botswana. I can't wait for the Senegal-DR Congo fixture. This is going to be war because DR Congo, man, they used to be an African powerhouse. They are 2 times African champions. They used to be this African powerhouse, and they are slowly finding their form. They are going to be that African team that's going to get there comfort spot or the spot to enter into the World Cup by going through the Confederation. And Senegal beat Congo in Kinshasa by 3-2, and the Congolese never forgave. They never forgave their federation for it. I mean, it was a mess in their stadium. I mean, I don't support crowd violence, but it's something they felt so hurt by. They could have easily qualified from their group if they had beat Senegal. They failed to do that. Senegal is like the second best African team you have at this AFCON, and currently the second best African team. I think that is going to be tasty, but do not sleep on Benin. Do not sleep on Benin, and I think people sleep on Benin. Maybe Benin disappointed everyone when they had to give Nigeria a run for their money, and they failed to do that. But over the past, in 2019 AFCON, we realized Benin, not only did they qualify from their group, but then they were in the quarterfinals. They beat Morocco. So Benin is a very troublesome team when it comes to the African continent. Botswana, I think Botswana is going to be like the whipping boy. But then Benin can cause a lot of trouble. I mean, Morocco is going to win this group, and I think I would want a Senegal-Morocco final because they are the two best teams. But African Cup history has always shown us that the favorites never make it to the finals. The favorites never make it to the finals. That's one thing. But then in this group, this should be easy work for Senegal, because Senegal are always good when it comes to their groups. I mean, you saw the last AFCON, they had a very difficult group which had Cameroon, Gambia, and it was like a piece of cake for them. It was really like a piece of cake for them. They didn't struggle through it. I think they are going to beat Congo. Congo is going to give them a run for their money, but they are going to beat Congo. And Benin is going to be troublesome, but then the group is just too powerful for Benin. So you have Congo and Senegal qualifying, and I have episodes where I speak about how good Senegal are currently, and so I don't think Benin can beat them. Then we go to Group E, where we have Algeria, Burkina Faso, Equatorial Guinea, Sudan. This is a very good group. I mean, I think people are sleeping on this group. This group is a very good group. Again, this is so evenly matched that everyone has equal strength in this group. Algeria, the Desert Foxes, one of my favorite North Africa. I fell in love with Algeria in the 2014 World Cup. Man, they have this aura like Bunija. They have this aura like they just have something about them that I like about them. And shout out to Amin, who is like one of the best YouTubers out there. You just can't help but fall in love with Algeria. And then they've called a lot of these German-based players. But then that's the thing about Algeria. After they won the AFCON, they crashed out on qualifying for the 2022 Qatar World Cup. And then they just fell so short at the two previous AFCONs. They just can't make it out of their group. They always parade a good squad and they can never make it out of the group stages. I don't know if this is going to be the same. And they're in a group with equally stubborn people. Like when I say stubborn, you can't get as stubborn as Burkina Faso, led by Bertrand Traoré, Edmond Tapsoba. They are very tricky. They're a very tricky team. And then you add that mixture with Equatorial Guinea, Insiwe and his people. My goodness, Equatorial Guinea, we saw in the last AFCON. Those guys are tricky. And then to make things more crazy, they have Sudan. Sudan is the team that took out Ghana from coming to the AFCON. Sudan is the reason Ghana is not in this AFCON. Sudan are that good. Sudan, for most of the World Cup qualifiers, was leading Senegal and Congo. Sudan are not to be slept on, being led by Ghana's Kwesi Appiah. So this group is crazy. This group is, to me, the most competitive group in the AFCON. And that is the group I am looking forward to. It's a mad group. I can't even predict who would make it out of this group. I don't know who would make it out of this group. But Algeria should not sleep on this group. I think Algeria are being hard done by this group. This group is going to be very tricky. Bro, I can't predict this group. Anyone can qualify from this group. Equatorial Guinea and Sudan can qualify from this group. Algeria, Burkina Faso can qualify from this group. Burkina Faso, Sudan can qualify from this group. Algeria, Sudan can qualify from this group. But this is a group I think we should all watch out for. But again, because Ghana didn't make it and Kwesi Appiah is coaching Sudan, I'm rooting for Sudan in this AFCON. I'm not even going to lie. I'm rooting for Sudan in this AFCON. And again, Sudan fell short during the African Cup they recently had, because they were parading most of their local players for the national team. So people expected them to do well with that local players African Cup, and they didn't do well. I think they finished fourth against they lost to Madagascar. That was very disappointing. But Equatorial Guinea, after the Nsue whole ban, points deduction and things like the Nsue ban for Equatorial Guinea, it derailed their World Cup movement, but then still can't sleep on them. And Burkina Faso are the team that really they were terrific in the World Cup qualifiers and felt really hard done by the whole Nigeria debacle, because they had so much points than Nigeria, and so they if we're going by points, they should have been there. They are a good team. They are really a good team, and so this group, we should all look out for it, and it's very interesting. I think AFCON has peaked so much. God, AFCON has peaked so much that even with my country not being in AFCON, I can still watch AFCON and still feel so good about it. And then you have Group F, where you have La Côte d'Ivoire. You can 3 times African champions. You have La Côte d'Ivoire. You have the second best African team, Cameroon. Then you have Gabon. Then you have Mozambique. Now, this is also another good group. Mozambique, you cannot sleep on Ronaldo Mandande's team. Again, not to mention the pain they put Ghanaians through, but Mozambique knocked out Ghana. They didn't knock out Ghana. They were the reason why Ghana couldn't make it out of the group stage in the last African Cup of Nations. They are that good. Then you have Gabon. See, you guys should forget about that 4-0 Gabon loss to Nigeria. Forget about it, because Aubameyang is on this good form, freaking terrific form. They have the Lemina brothers, who are also good, and the extra time 3 Nigeria added. Forget about that. Prior to that, Gabon and Cote d'Ivoire know each other very well, because they were in the same World Cup qualifying group, and I think they drew the first leg, and Cote d'Ivoire nudged it 1-0 over them in Ivory Coast. So they know each other very well. They really know each other very well. And Gabon has never been a walkover for Cote d'Ivoire. So they are that good. I feel like people sleep on Gabon. I will not be shocked if Gabon makes it out of this group with Cote d'Ivoire. Cameroon, the reason Cameroon, all of it. And I heard the news is that Cameroon has re-elected Samuel Eto'o. I don't know what's going through their mind over there. He's been too controversial for him to continue his post. But knowing African politics and knowing my situation in Ghana, I wouldn't be shocked that it might not really be the will of the people, but it's the thing about football people. I'm not going to go, but he's been involved in too much controversies. I don't know how he's still their president. They've not been that impressive. They've not been that impressive after they won in 2017. They hosted in 2021, finished 3rd placed. The last AFCON, they got knocked out by Nigeria, and even they struggled to get out of their group. Like the Cameroon, we know, early 2000s Cameroon, sleeveless. The indomitable Lions, we knew they could go to Nigeria and then take the AFCON in Nigeria. That was the Cameroon we knew. They've just fallen far off. And even in 2017, the AFCON they won with Basogog, Abubakar, Mecha, all of those players, it was out of the blue. No one expected Cameroon to win that AFCON. It was really out of the blue. No one expected the end, but some way, somehow, they found a way to win. And since then, I mean, when they went to the World Cup, they didn't disgrace themselves. They became the first African team to beat Brazil. All of that is there, but then you look at this team right now, and they have Mbeumo, they have Anguissa, they have a team that should do well, but then things are just not going well for them. And I'm making a bold prediction that Cote d'Ivoire and Gabon will make it out of this group, and Cameroon will, because the steady decline is there for everyone to see. Cameroon could not qualify from a group in which they had Cabo Verde. They couldn't qualify for the World Cup in a group with Cabo Verde, Angola, Eswatini. They were having a hard time. And so unless by some miracle, and then they show us who they truly are, I don't see them qualifying out of this group. I think Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon will make it out of this group. So 21st December to January should be a very fun time for the African Cup of Nations, and we would come up with more episodes talking about our favorite moments in the African Cup of Nations. My name is Safo Kwame Oheneba. Subscribe, like, and share. You guys like, watch, share. Let other people see it. Me talking a lot of nonsense football and then making a lot of noise in this, my fancy glasses and stuff like that. I'm not even wearing a jersey today, but you guys should share, subscribe, and like. My name is Safo Kwame Oheneba. This is the Sulia Podcast. Bye.